The story of Mary, the mother of Jesus, is quite different to that portrayed in the Bible used today. I put forward to you here another alternative scenario based largely on what we know of her son Jesus from the Sinai Bible, which was written before the formation of the Church of Rome and the construction of the Bible that people use today. Scholars comparing the two Bibles found over 14,000 spurious priesthood additions and forgeries in the current Bible itself, a matter of grave concern. Also, paintings by early artists quite clearly show spacecraft present at Jesus' birth and death. Don't judge yet, there is more. Based on findings, here we have the alternative scenario. Mary, the young woman who was to become the mother of Jesus, met and fell in love with a tall and very handsome stranger, one who seemed to be more in tune with life and death, and was calmer than anyone she'd ever known. Over time, Mary grew to love him, but this man was somewhat strange, deliciously different in a spiritual kind of way. It was almost as though he was a man of the universe rather than of the earth. Over the coming months, the inevitable happened, and Mary fell pregnant, and she was in trouble. The day she chose to meet the man she loved to tell him that she was with child, he did not appear. Distraught beyond belief, after a few weeks when Mary began to show, she told her parents of the man, whose name she did not even know, and the times they had spent together. Now maybe, just maybe, this man and Mary planned this pregnancy and this birth for a reason. Maybe, just maybe, Mary knew exactly who this spiritual person was and where he was from, but we don't really know. Now Mary knew Joseph quite well. He was an Essene and a healer, and Mary had noticed him watching her as she wandered off to meet her man in the valley outside the settlement day after day. She had never considered him as a potential partner, for he was much older than her, but he realised that she was with child and without the man she had loved. He could see the pain on her face as the days passed, and he knew that she would be an outcast in the community before too long. So Joseph proposed marriage. He wanted to marry Mary because he admired her, he appreciated her beauty, and he wanted to save her from the culture of the day that would surely persecute her. So Joseph did indeed marry Mary, but who was this man whom nobody but Mary ever saw, to whom Mary gave so much, this man so wise in the ways of spirituality? It was as if he existed only for Mary, and then he was gone. He was gone at the time, it could be argued, when Mary needed him the most. It is much more probable that Mary's lover was in fact a highly evolved being from another world. It is more than probable when you consider Jesus' level of evolvement and healing, in excess of any of his contemporaries. It stands to reason when one considers that it's much more probable that the so-called Star of Bethlehem was actually a craft. You can see my video on star or spacecraft for more information. Let's look at one example of the many problems you should have with the Bible you use today. The virgin birth scenario, so blatantly copied and adopted by the emerging Church of Rome, was one with a proven track record of success. It had been used in religion a few times prior to the birth of Christianity. Gautama Buddha, born of a virgin in Maya 600 BC. Dionysus, Greek god born of a virgin in a stable, turned water into wine apparently. Indra, born of a virgin in Tibet around 700 BC. Mithra, born of a virgin in a stable on the 25th of December 600 BC. Resurrection celebrated at Easter. There's an interesting comment on the matter in the book The Hiram Key by Robert Lomas and Christopher Knight. But for a twist of fate in the later years of the Roman Empire, nice families would today be driving to Sunday worship with "Mithra loves you" stickers in their car windows. In her book, Mary Magdalene, Christianity's Hidden Goddess, Lynn Picknett goes on to state, not only does the Nag Hammadi Gospel of Thomas state that Jesus had a twin brother, but Mary went on to have more children, presumably by Joseph, the older man who married her while she was pregnant with Jesus to hide her shame. Also, the Roman Catholic Church idea that Mary was a virgin forever just can't be true. It is no secret that Mary went on to have more children. Is that not the carpenter's son? Is not his mother called Mary, and his brethren James and Joseph, and Simon and Judas? That's in Matthew 55. Jesus, born of Mary, whose father some incorrectly assume was a Roman centurion, was the stepson of Joseph, and later he had 4 step-brothers. But Jesus was indeed different. Now, the birth of Jesus is covered in the Bible in varying ways. Matthew 2:1 states quite clearly that Jesus lay within a house, and when they were come into the house, they saw the young child with Mary his mother, and fell down and worshipped him. Matthew says Mary was a virgin, but Mark does not. We now know that virgin is a misinterpretation of the word Alma, meaning young woman. This alone throws into disarray the incorrect virgin birth teaching of the church. Luke is the only gospel that mentions a manger, and no gospel mentions a stable. So Jesus was born into what was essentially an Egyptian family. Following Herod's wrath after the census, they fled back to Egypt. But this too is wrongly depicted in the Bible. Doctors agree that the Mary depicted in the Bible stories could not have made the journey across the desert, perched on the back of a donkey. She was, after all, at full-term pregnancy, and the journey would have been absolutely intolerable. As one academic pointed out, this proves beyond doubt that the whole story was written by a man with no real knowledge of carrying a child. It is clearly a later, spurious addition. 3 books for you to read that will destroy the biblical myth of the Virgin Mary forever are The Hiram Key by Christopher Knight, Mary Magdalene, Christianity's Hidden Goddess by Lynn Picknett, and Buried by the Church by me, Neil Sutton. Watch my other videos on this channel to put more meat on the bones. The Bible, A Tissue of Lies, and Mary Magdalene, Christianity's Hidden Goddess.